All right, welcome to Ball and Chain Podcast. This is episode 194, we think. Yeah, I'm here with It's My Angel.
Hi.
I'm Mox Born Again. We are doing something a little bit different. We're kind of in the mid stages of switching systems. I gave my old computer to my son Eli. Because I'm having a new computer built and it's not done yet, but I had promised that we were going to do a show this week, so here we are. No video. We just got the logo up there for now, but we've got some big stuff. We got some new stuff planned for the podcast and things like that, and actually for the YouTube channel. We'll talk more about that after the PC is finished. But this week we wanted to talk about E3. E3 happened this past week, and we'll also be going over some updating on Game of Thrones. We want to jump into Game of Thrones first?
You're gonna have to remind me what happened.
Okay, so Game of Thrones. We actually didn't do a podcast the week before either, so we've missed quite a few episodes. But let's see here. So the most recent episode, the main thing that
titled No One.
What's that?
It was titled No One.
No One. Let's see here. Let's talk about Arya first. So
story arc.
she kind of renounced her allegiance to the many-faced god after they asked her to kill one of the performers, and she got to know the performer over a little bit. But essentially, what she found out is that one of the performer that would take her place, the second in line, or
Right, her
not
understudy
like the
or whatever,
second string.
basically.
Yeah, she was the one that was hired them to take her out or whatever. So she went through with it up until the very last second, knocked out the poison that was going to kill her, and warned her about the one that was going to put the head out on her. But yeah, it's so she was on the run for a while. What's that? I can't
Very
remember.
short period of time in the waif.
What's the one guy's name? The
Jaquan?
Jahari or Jakari or something like that. Jaquan basically sent the other chick.
The waif.
Was her? Oh, okay.
That's what they call her, the waif. They sent her after Arya, basically, to take her out.
Which
she does.
She had two run-ins. One was injured pretty badly.
Right, and the actress who she warned ended up taking her in, taking care of her briefly, trying to get her wounds healed until the waif comes back, kills that chick, and Arya's on the run again. But we find out that her time as a blind person, and having to learn how to fight blind, basically gave her an advantage, and she leads the waif into these dark corridor, cuts
Kind
off
of where
the light.
she was staying.
She's kind of set up a camp with her sword needle, and takes out the light and takes out the waif. One of the best. A lot of people are kind of getting annoyed with Arya's story arc, feeling that this entire time with this group has been a waste. But I kind of look at it as her growing up time. I mean, she was really young when she went to King's Landing with her dad.
And witnessed her dad die.
Right.
That's pretty heavy.
And she really hadn't developed. She was a kid, and since that time has basically been on the run. She was taken by the Hound, who was trying to sell her back to her family or whatever, and got away. Wound up here at the House of Black and White,
which is across the Narrow Sea. So she made it pretty far away from Westeros.
Right, and so I almost feel like, at the end of this, she kills the waif, puts the face on the wall, and tells the guy there at the House of Black and White, Jaquan, I can never pronounce his name, something along those lines.
Mr. J.
Right, tells him, he says a girl now has no name. Like you've come full circle, you've done, you've beat her, and
and he put her.
And she comes back and says, no, a girl has a name. It's Arya Stark of Winterfell. And she's like, I'm out of here, basically.
Right.
And he kind of has this little smile on his face, which, you kind of don't expect him to necessarily have. But I kind of feel like he, all along, was rooting for her and basically was there to help her find out who she is.
Well, the one thing that I find interesting is through like the whole time that she's with these people, he's teaching her when the many-faced god asks for a name, it gets a name. Like it's never gonna not be fulfilled. So she comes back with, what did you say, the waif?
Mm-hmm.
Whenever I hear that word, I think like wafer, like no wafer. Anyway, so she puts her face in the Coliseum or whatever. It's still bloody or whatnot, but so she fulfills that debt and kind of is like, hey, we're finished here. Don't come after me.
Right.
You got the actress, you got your second name, and he, I think he does have like a sense of pride that he kind of brought her in. She was lost and kind of like not really know who she was, and I think the skills that she obtained through this temple, I think is going to prove to be very, very useful.
Right, and making her strong about in whatever is to come. The actress did ask her where she's going to go, and she says, I've been to Westeros, that's west. I've been to Essos, that's east.
What's
west of Westeros? What else is out there?
Right.
So it'll be interesting to see if she goes to explore what else is out there, or if she winds up back in Westeros along where everyone else seems to be kind of culminating.
What would be great? Because they haven't written this part of the book yet, right? This is still all like untold.
Right.
What if she does go west of Westeros? Like she just says, you know what? She could stop in Westeros and see that like her entire family has been butchered and killed, and there are no more Starks. And she's just like, yeah, I'm just gonna keep going. And she just keeps going, and that could be like a whole new story, like a whole new storyline, a whole new series, like because you can tell they're really closing gaps and closing.
It's definitely been a faster paced. A lot of people said this episode was real slow paced. I didn't feel that way. A lot of people felt this was very boring and kind of slow paced, and it was a lot of setup for what's to come.
Oh yeah.
It's kind of moving Arya's storyline into a whole new direction. What else did we see this episode? Dany, Daenerys.
Oh yeah.
Comes back. We see what's we see Tyrion being very excited. Meereen is prospering. People are out in the streets again. It looks like things are kind of going well there for a second, and so well that Varys is headed off to, and I don't know, maybe I missed something in a prior episode. He's heading off to do something else. He left on a ship.
I don't remember. I think he's trying to convince more people to stand behind Daenerys.
I don't know. But anyway, he's leaving, so we see that kind of thing, that part of that story going. But then all of a sudden the masters are coming to claim their slaves, and they're launching fireballs at the city.
Right. Tyrion is given the slavers 7 years to stop the trade.
Right.
Like you have 7 years of slavery left. Time to we're gonna move forward. We don't do this in the West.
Right.
Blah blah blah. And Grey Worm and the other chick not very happy about it.
No.
And it seemed, and for all of last episode and halfway into this episode, seems to be a good decision. But then you see hundreds of ships coming in, and they're gonna make the most out of the 7 years. And Tyrion says he made a mistake. So
now I see a group that I was reading some comments in. We're not very happy with the whole section of the story there, where they were telling jokes.
They weren't happy about it?
No, they're like, this is pointless. It's a waste of time. We're on episode 8 of the 10 episode season. Let's see some action. Let's get stuff moving along. And it was filler. Yeah, but at the same time, you start to. It was kind of nice and light seeing some of those. Next episode appears like it's going to be very action heavy, possibly very depressing.
Mm-hmm.
And having some of those light, airy moments kind of helps bring about the characters a little bit more.
I hate to say it, but I think they're going to kill Tyrion next episode or at the end of this series.
Oh, just because of him mentioning.
Well, the two things that he did in this episode that stand out and that stand out the most is he talked about how his future and how he wants to own a vineyard or something like that, or retire to a vineyard, and he wants to be happy, blah blah blah. And that's when what's the bald dude's name? Varys. What's when Varys left, and then this whole joking around, tell a joke sequence was happening, and everyone was having a good time, and then that's when the Masters have started attacking. So I have a feeling they're trying to make him more humanizing, like humanize the character a little bit. I don't think he's gonna live, and that makes me really sad because he's one of my favorite characters.
Yeah.
Or maybe it'll be one of those things
Or
where
possibly.
they quote unquote kill him, but don't show him dying, and he pulls a Jon Snow or whatever.
The Mountain has been gone for 2 seasons.
Or pulls a Glenn
Not the Mountain, the Hound.
from Walking Dead.
Right.
And maybe he. I mean, he is a dwarf, so he'll fit underneath the dumpster more believably than Glenn.
I was about to say something I probably shouldn't say.
Say it. Go for it.
No, not doing
We
it.
are an M-rated podcast.
Not doing it.
Fuck, shit, damn. There, you can
And
go
it
ahead
wasn't
and
a
say it.
curse word. It
Oh,
was
okay.
something about the size of Glenn and racial. Yeah, I'm not
Oh.
gonna go there.
Because he's of Asian descent, he can fit in small places too. But that's more like a box. You can like you can curl up and fit in contorted ways. Laying flat, that's a dwarf thing.
Laying flat, dwarves can lay flat.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
gosh, this is going in all kinds of bad ways. Okay,
Anyway.
back onto the show.
What
So
else
at that
did we
point,
see?
Daenerys
Yeah.
flies in on a dragon, lands on the roof of the temple there,
Right.
where they are kind of bunkered down. So it'll be interesting. That's all. That's the last we see.
Right. Well, they said that
So-
they're gonna hold up in the top of the temple, and I think that's a great place to stay when you got a dragon on your side.
Yeah.
They're gonna hopefully-
She looks kind of pissed.
I hope they free the second and third dragon and just rain down. She's looking for ships, and maybe that's what Varys is doing. He wants to go find ships for her.
Maybe.
They need to find a way to take these ships. Well, they also
Without
have
burning them.
without burning them to the ground. I don't know if that's possible. Would you be able to command a dragon to that level of detail? Hey, go kill all those people, but save the ships.
Right.
We need the ships. But then they also have Ironborn coming
On ships.
ships overseas, and the uncle
Following
who took
them.
not follow. He said
building
he's
ships.
building ships.
I don't
So
know how fast you can build 1,000 ships.
right. But his plan was to go to Daenerys originally
Right, and align with her.
align with her. But I'm wondering. I guess is that what
That's what it looks
Theon-
like Theon is
Theon's
doing.
doing?
And his sister.
Yeah. So. But that interaction was really good at the whorehouse between the two, him and his sister. She's talking about how you've had it bad, blah blah blah, and if I can't get my brother Theon back, Greyjoy back, slit your wrist, do it now, get it over with. But I need you more than ever, blah blah blah.
Right, you need
and
to be yourself.
And you kind of see him sit up and take a different stance, and I mean, Varys has been, he's had some a traumatic childhood, and
Right.
in the exact same, the same body part, obviously, but he's going through a traumatic experience as Theon did, and he's come back. He's a prominent character.
I don't think he broke him mentally. I mean, he cut off his,
Right, but I'm thinking like
But I don't
that
think
happened when
broke
he
him
was,
mentally.
but that happened when you were a child, and Theon Theon was more psychologically when he was an adult. So I think the two weigh about the same, apples and oranges, but they weigh about the same, I would think.
I don't know. Regardless.
Then what about
it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. We've got the next episode is the Battle of the Bastards. Where you got basically Ramsay against Snow.
We didn't talk about the Red Keep and the Queen.
Yeah.
So the Queen has been banished to the Red Keep, and basically
By the Sparrow.
by the head sparrow, or the High Sparrow, and then the last scene that we in this past episode, the High Sparrow is requesting her presence or her counsel or whatever, and she denies it, and that's her nephew. That's one of the sparrows
Her
now. Cousin. And he says something, are you going to come with us, or are you choosing violence? And of course,
She's violent.
Of course, she has, the mountain behind her. She's like, she steps aside and she goes, I choose violence. And the mountain picks the dude up off the ground after being bludgeoned in the chest.
Crushes his eyeballs in or something, doesn't he?
He rips his head off.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, he throws him to the ground, chokes him, throws him to the ground, and then just tears his head off.
Yeah, that.
And then the other ones,
The monster.
Yeah, the other sparrow is kind of like, you know what? we're gonna live to fight another day, and they walk
Yeah.
away.
But even after that,
Yeah.
she is supposed to be. She did her walk of atonement, which I don't understand this whole part. You've atoned for your sins,
Mm-hmm.
and now she still has to sit trial. Like, I don't quite understand that. I would think that you're atoned, now you're forgiven. You know, she did the whole walk naked through the streets and everything. That's supposed to cleanse you. So
I think
why is
it's-
she still holding trial?
I think I think you've got the law of the gods and the law of man.
But this is still a trial, though, that is requested by the.
Right. I think she
Sparrow
still has to stand trial for her crimes. I don't. I'm not really sure. You're right. I'm not really sure, but I think it has something. I think it has something to do with the law of man and the law of the gods. Like the atonement and the walk of shame was to kind of show her
Cleanse her spirit.
cleanse her spirit and along the lines of like, okay, I know I know I've done wrong. This is how I bow down and ask for forgiveness from the gods. Now you're still on trial for
Right.
X, Y, and Z.
Which her entire defense at this point has been pretty much, okay, well, you know what, at the day of the trial, so say trial by combat,
Right.
I've got this monster basically working for me, and he'll beat anything that goes up against him, so I'm scot-free. Well,
That plan goes to shit.
right, her son has aligned himself with this religious cult, and has, comes forward to say that trial by combat throughout basically any
Seven
trial by
kingdoms.
combat throughout the entire Seven Kingdoms is no longer recognized.
Yeah.
So her trial is going to be a trial
She's
that is going to be judged by the seven high septums or something like that. So basically, like 7 high priests are going to have to be her judge.
Which after
Judge and jury, basically, is what it sounds like.
Right. Which is basically putting the nail in the coffin. Which it's interesting that the last episode ended with how do you say her name? Cersei. Cersei and Marjorie's grandmother speaking, and Marjorie's grandmother is like, "Look, we hate each other and stuff, but we need to leave. Like, there's nothing for us here." And Cersei, she's basically Cersei.
Starts with the C. It's like Cerci.
Whatever. The queen.
She's no longer the queen.
The ex-queen. The incestual blonde. She's like basically spits in her face and says, I love my kids more than you, and I'll stand by my son through thick and thin. And I really don't think it's because she loves her son. I think she loves power. So basically, she's pretty much toast.
Yeah, although right after that, you do see, I don't know if he's a maester or what his title is, but he comes up and, he now has control over Varys' little sparrows, which we have come to find out are these little children that kind of run in they blend in and they hear get all the information, but that there are some rumors that they are investigating, which are true. She says, are the rumors true? And he says, and much more. So we don't know what those rumors are. A few people have come out and said that they think it has to do with I think it's called wildfire, that green fire. Because we've seen that she likes to use it in the past during the battle when they were against Stannis Baratheon, when they were locked up in the siege. But we've also seen flashes back that Bran had when he was becoming the Three-Eyed Raven. But if he was seeing the entire history of Westeros, does he not also see the future? And are some of those with the fire maybe something that is going yet to happen with Cersei there? So that's something that's potentially been.
Yeah, I still don't think she's gonna survive. Well, I don't think she's gonna survive, but.
We've seen Sansa and Jon Snow trying to build their army to go against Ramsay Bolton.
Yep.
Some of that was not so successful when she sent Brienne down to Riverrun to try to get her uncle, the Blackfish, behind her. We did at that point though get to see Jaime and Brienne's reunion.
This kind of brings up I don't understand who the Blackfish is. He's not the owner of the castle. He's not the leader of the castle. Who the fuck is he? And why is he like taking this role when he doesn't command the soldiers? The soldiers are
He was commanding while the other guy was being held captive.
Okay.
That is his family's ancestral grounds. He is Catherine Stark, who was Catherine Tully. He is her uncle.
Okay.
Her brother, Catherine's brother that married Walder Frey's daughter during the Red Wedding, he is the heir. So her father must have been the heir, and it would have gone to the son. The son has been held captive, so I believe it would go linear to the brother, which is Catherine's uncle.
I mean, like a family tree and a heirs and all that stuff kind of thing.
Right. So that is why he was
He's kind of
holding River Run at the time,
right.
Which Cersei had gone and told Jaime to take over. Which is then how we get to see Brienne encounter Jaime. It was a really interesting interaction between the two of them. It's hard to explain. Some people say there's a romantic thing between the two of them. I don't know if it's necessarily romantic, just a mutual respect and understanding between the two of them.
Yeah.
And could that eventually turn into like a love of some sort? Maybe not a romantic or sexual love, but definitely a kindred spirit kind of love in a way, or something.
I don't know. I think they see each other more as like battle adversaries and like as warriors and not as love interests.
But she challenges him, and he rises up to it to become a better person in some ways. You know, she says, "You're a knight. Where is your honor in this? You know, what are you doing? Why are you not being honorable? I know you can be. You know, I know that this is the person that you're supposed to be. Right. You know." And she goes to give him back the Valyrian steel sword that he gave her, which, you know, is his. It's got the lion's head on it. And he says, "No, I didn't give that to you just for one mission. I gave that to you as a gift to keep for, you know, your life, basically." Right. That's a huge thing. I mean, that's a family ancestral sword made of Valyrian steel. That's not like just giving somebody a run-of-the-mill sword. Right.
The other thing we didn't talk about either was Sam. And he
and Gilly.
Yeah, Sam and Gilly. Basically, Sam leaves the Black Castle, the Wall, to learn to become a Grand Maester. And along the way, he takes Gilly, and they head back to his family's castle or whatever, and where they promise to take in Gilly and the son, but once they find out that she's a wildling, his father kind of goes off in a tangent, and you're to be gone, blah blah blah, and she's working in the kitchen and blah blah blah. So Sam ends up taking the sword, the Valyrian sword that his father has, and Gilly and his son, and leaving. I don't know where they plan on going, but wouldn't he be?
But it's interesting because the Valyrian steel is so far one of the only things we seem to be able to kill White Walkers. Mm-hmm. So at this point we have Brienne with a Valyrian steel sword. Mm-hmm. We have Sam Tarly, Jon Snow.
Mm-hmm. Wait, Jon Snow is the one with the white wolf on the end of it?
Yeah, I believe so.
That's a Valyrian steel.
I believe it's Valyrian steel. We saw him kill a white wolf.
Oh yeah, that's right. He did.
I can't recall.
Well, they also had Dragonglass will kill him too. I think
Dragon, yeah.
I think Sam has that still. Well, somebody has. I don't know.
He had one that he killed. I don't know if it shattered the White Walker or whatever, but yeah, you're right. And I'm trying to remember who else has Valyrian steel swords, but there's only a few. I mean, there's only a handful. So
I would imagine the Lannisters have a good point. Like if Jaime's got one, I'm sure his dad's got one. Which his dad's dead. Gone. But
I don't know if that was the one that he gave Brienne. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see, especially with the Battle of the White Walkers eventually coming, are these people who are holding these swords, because it was kind of a big deal, and I don't know if it was a big deal that he gave Brienne this sword because of what it represents in him being a good person?
Right.
Or does it, do we need to really be watching these swords more in the battle that is to come against the White Walkers and these people that hold them?
Right.
Are they going to be the key, some key players into this war?
Right. I don't know. So.
We've talked about this for a long time.
I think that's about everything that we've.
Well, there's more we could talk about, but. But we've been on it for a long time.
I know. It was good stuff though. The last episode I think was kind of slow, but you've got we talked about it with Walking Dead. You can't always be at 11. You can't. Every episode cannot be at 11 because if that's the case, then the show's gonna get boring if someone doesn't die every episode, or there isn't a giant cliffhanger, or there isn't a gunfight or whatever. There's got to be, like I said, these humanizing moments or scenes where you say, hey, these people aren't all about death and killing and murder, because then you segregate your audience. Then you're not in it for the story or the humor. Those people are going, I'm done watching this. But anyway, I think the next episode, this was episode 8, so we have episode 9 and 10. And we have 2 big wars coming up. We've got the war with Jon Snow and Ramsay, which looks like that's going to be the one that's episode 8 or 9.
Yeah.
And then episode 10, probably. I don't
focus on Dany and Marine or what they're going to go. I don't know if we'll see Arya anymore this season. She seemed like that was kind of a season send off.
She was kind of on her way. I don't know, and she did collect the gold from when she tried to get passage to Westeros. She gave the guy two purses of gold, but when she walked away, you saw her pick it back up and said, "I'll see you tomorrow morning." So she still has the gold. So I don't know if there is any story to be told there, because if she does get on the boat, she's going.
Then we're just okay, she's leaving.
On the
There's
boat.
Really no, her storyline does seem to kind of end at a good ending point right this second. There's really not much to be told in more episodes. Bran. I'd like to see some more.
Right?
Yeah, he's in the woods with his uncle that came back. The long-awaited uncle that we thought was dead.
Yeah.
I don't know if we had mentioned Hodor and Hold the Door and all that on
No,
there
we
yet.
didn't mention that. Yeah, Hold the Door. Yeah, because that we'll have to talk about that another time. So
there's been a lot.
That was really sad, the whole Hodor thing. But
there's
anyway.
been a lot.
So let's talk about E3 briefly. I watched 3 of the, I don't know how many conferences. I got Microsoft, Sony, and Bethesda. What do we want to talk about first?
The only one I saw was Sony.
Okay, well, how about this? Let's talk about Bethesda, then we'll go to Sony, and then we'll finish up with Microsoft. Bethesda had a really good, this is the second or third show that they've had their own press conference where they've brought, had a huge, had the huge stage and all the, the reveals and stuff like that. They talked about quite a few different things that they've done in the past year. Kind of did a recap type of deal. Talked about Doom and how well received it's been. They went over some of the DLC packs that are coming up, the changes that they're making to the Snap. I think it's called Snap Map. Basically the map editor. They're adding in. They're going to be adding in different skins and things like that. So you can change the atmosphere. Right now, the king of the hill when it comes to map making I would definitely say it's Halo. But it looks like this is going to be another, a good addition to the game. They're adding in different game types, capture the flag, both 1 and 2 flag. It looks like they're working on a King of the Hill style thing. And then, so anyway, talking about Doom, they really brought into the fact that, it's been well received, and it's kind of a labor of love, and it doesn't sound like they're just going to stop as far as DLC goes and changing the game and all that stuff. As far as DLC goes for story mode, I think it's kind of cut and dry, or finished. I don't think they're going to be adding more of that stuff. It's more multiplayer solution to keep the game going as far as giving it legs. Let's see here. They did mention that as far as VR goes, they talked about VR and how they know it's a very important thing for all gamers. This year has really proven, to show how many people are interested, and it's just going to get bigger with the console. The consoles is going to get bigger, but with PC, how expansive it's gotten just in the past year, 2015, 2016. So they did have a playable demo for Doom in VR, which is to me is really interesting. I haven't had a chance to work in VR. I have or play around with VR myself, but a bunch of the podcasts that I've listened to and a bunch of like the hosts talk about it, and it seems like the biggest the biggest obstacle right now is moving in the world, because you can't just walk around your house and walk in hell. You've got to have like a point and click type of thing where you point to a certain section on screen and you teleport there. So that's the biggest obstacle right now, is trying to figure out how do you keep the person engaged in the game with this type of traversal system. So what I was talking about was starting to talk about VR with Doom, and one of the big hurdles right now is how do you traverse, how do you move, and the way they have it set up right now is kind of like a point and click, and you teleport there. So it's very like it breaks, kind of like you're this human.
Choppy.
Yeah, it's very choppy. It's like visually it's not choppy, but like I'm this human being that was here, and seconds later I'm over here. You know what I mean? Like.
Right.
So my solution was just put a joystick in this person's hand. Like you can still use, one hand to aim, and you can still use your head to look around, but just give me a single joystick in my other hand to control my movements. Like to me, like that wouldn't break the immersion. Is it the best answer for virtual reality? No, but it's a lot better than saying I'm gonna go there and then whoop, you're there.
Or walking around your room until you hit something.
Right. Well, that's obviously not gonna work. You can't do that. Like, and then like other some of the very.
What about like a step pad like they have for DDR? Like where you can step on the forward arrow, and then step on the back arrow.
Yeah, I mean that.
Step on the side arrow.
That's a possibility, but keep in mind you've got this thing in front. You got this thing over your eyes, so you can't see the arrow below you.
Yeah, I don't know.
So I mean, walking in place, and the other thing is, right now, in this kind of goes along the lines is, PC gamers, you don't have to play VR games standing up.
Right.
So some PC gamers are sitting down playing these games. So you don't necessarily, that's why and the pad that'd be a great, And some people are like, well, put a treadmill from. Like, how much a treadmill is going to cost on top of a VR headset? Like.
Right.
And like on top of that, trying to run on a treadmill with something over your face.
Some of us have a dedicated room in our houses, like the
holodeck. Yes. And then it'll go awry, and the HoloLens things will come alive, and like, it's on the fritz. But the one thing that I wanted to say for you when you came down was Fallout 4 VR. And one of the guys on IGN was talking about how he had played it firsthand on the show floor, and they said that the game is in VR, like the whole game is in VR. They've got everything working in Fallout 4. It's going to be releasing for the Xbox 360 in 2017 with Oculus. It's one of the major headset developers. But again, the same thing is they're using this whole like transportation, like you click and that's where you are, and that's exactly what the guy on IGN was talking about. Like, this is just not the right answer. This is, it's going to suffer the same way Kinect suffered with the Xbox 360, and I think this is just kind of like a patchwork, which was the Xbox One's version, and it got a little bit better with the voice controls, but like the video capture and like the motion controls just still weren't there. And look at it now, like it's not even being packaged with the system anymore. Like they're tuning out Kinect altogether, and we'll talk a little bit more about Kinect and the new Xbox One with the Microsoft's press conference. So it's awesome to hear that they're working on VR and using their biggest games. And I think like Fallout and Doom are two totally different games that they could be going on. You know, Doom is like, you know, this point and shoot type of game, which is more focused on multiplayer, which I think would be kind of fun. And then Fallout's like this single player, immersive, super in-depth game that
You explore, yeah. And something it may work on something that you're on a track, like what is it, House of the Living Dead?
Oh,
one of
Unreal,
those, yeah, one of those types of things. Typing of the Dead, whatever that, you know, things like
Right.
that, where you're not. It moves for you at a set pace, and you're not in control of your movements. I mean, something like that. Sure, you can look up and down and shoot and do whatever, but I don't see how it works for
I
like
want them
open
to
world
fix it.
games.
I want
and
them to
things
fix
like
it. I want to be able to play this game without teleportation, but I will play it with teleportation because I think if you're going to have an open world game like that and be in the virtual reality, you know, mindset, Fallout is a great place to be. They
Can you imagine how would you know you're getting shot in the back? I mean, I guess the sounds.
Well, I mean, they could still have like the on-screen, like you're still gonna have like the the on-screen stuff and all that crap, and like the heads-up display and stuff like that. I mean,
Right, but you're playing from a third-person view typically in Fallout.
no, you'll be first person in this one.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. Like, if you're getting shot in the back, you almost need to wear like one of those laser tag vests where you can feel the pulse.
Rumble.
Yeah, and then
Rumble
you
pack.
turn around, so that way you can turn around and see who's behind you.
I'm sure
in the virtual
Nikon
reality.
is it not Nikon? Nyko's the developer for like third-party accessories. I think they'll have.
But
I'm sure
you
they
almost
will.
need like one of those laser tag vests so you can feel the shot.
Let's see
Excuse me,
here.
sorry.
Talked about Fallout DLC a little bit, which was interesting. The changes to Fallout Shelter, and they're basically adding a Fallout Shelter version to the actual game itself. So you'll be able to build a vault and create your own experiments and things like that. So that's kind of neat. They debuted Prey, which we watched. We watched the trailer for Prey. Not the same game whatsoever. I mean, the only like thin thread between the two was in the original the aliens were experimenting on humans, but in this one it's almost like humans. They're still experimenting,
government
but it's more like a
experiment.
government type of thing.
Like I think X-Files, like the government's working with the alien technology or whatever.
That's exactly it. So I mean, there's still some very loose connections, but like everything else has been thrown out. I mean, the graphics. I mean, we saw. I don't think there was any gameplay that we saw. It was all pre-rendered, but it looked gorgeous.
A lot of these games weren't my type of games. Like this, Resident Evil. I mean, that looked
That was
super
yeah.
creepy.
That was Ubisoft, or no, that was that Sony? I think it was on Sony.
It was Sony.
Yeah.
I mean, that looked super creepy. The graphics looked amazing. But yeah,
Let's go ahead and talk
not
about-
my type of game.
Let's go ahead and talk about Sony. So God of War.
Which I've never played any of the God of Wars.
You've watched me play God of War before, though.
I don't recall. I mean, I know the guy's face just from like commercials, but I don't recall God of War.
This one should be called Dad of War because you now have a son. I don't know. I
Yeah,
don't know the story of God
preview-
of War very well, so I don't know like when this takes place.
Right. The
It looks-
preview was him basically training this kid on archery and
Right.
killing this deer.
And
And then a big
gnome-
monster
or the-
attack.
Not the gnome, the giant.
Right.
PlayStation had a good section about VR. They talked about. They had a whole bunch of games. Apparently, there's gonna.
You didn't
be,
like the fact that all the games were like Spider-Man, PlayStation VR,
Well,
or
no.
Final Fantasy VR experience, or
I think it's so dumb the way that they
It's kind of
market these
redundant.
games. Like they're like it's VR, PlayStation VR, and this is Batman VR and Call of Duty VR. I'm like, and then yeah, like you said, even one of the games had VR experience. I'm like, that is the dumbest name. I know you're trying to get
the point
the
across.
point across
that's
that's VR, but put it on the damn box. Like, you know, change the color of the box a little bit or something. Like, you know, instead of your happy-go-lucky blue, maybe it's like a deep blue or a deep purple or something like that. And like this obviously is a PlayStation game, but it only works with VR.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It's just something a pet peeve of mine. And the same.
It launches this November, right? Was it this November?
Yeah, October 2016. for $399.
Yeah,
They'll
so it's
have-
very soon.
Yep, so they mentioned they'll have 50 games before the end of the year, which is impressive. 90% of them will say VR or experience in the title, which is annoying as shit. But yeah, two games that I'm excited about, and the first one I think you'll like is the Detroit Becoming Human.
That game looked interesting. That was more up my speed. Looked like a detective kind of game almost, utilizing lots of different outcomes in the game based on kind of what you do. Kind of like a choose your own adventure book kind of thing.
And the one thing that you said when we were watching it, and it's kind of interesting, it's an interesting thought, is at the end of the trailer, it's got like all these different outcomes of this robot or this cyborg taking hold of this one of his masters or whatever, the daughter, and is going to jump off the, there's like an ending where he jumps off, there's an ending where he gets shot, there's an ending where he shoots back, there's an ending where he throws a girl off, there's an ending where he falls backwards.
Gives up, and the little girl...
Right, and it shows like all these endings, and your comment was...
Right, it was like, is this... They just showed us all the endings in the game.
Right, and I'm thinking in the back of my mind is like, I hope they didn't, and if they didn't, how many more endings, is this just one mission? Hopefully this goes super deep, and like, this is an outcome that you can get to in the game. Like, what if you play this game and you eventually are the guy at the edge of the building holding your master? I mean, what if that's a possibility? That would be disgusting.
Yeah, it was really, it looks interesting. That's definitely my...
And I think this is the same people that made Heavy Rain. Is that David Cray or something like that? Detroit. Whoops. I hate this keyboard. Detroit Become Human. Quantic Dream. I think they are the ones that did Heavy Rain. Beyond Two Souls was another one that they did. Yeah, so this is the same. Yeah, David Cage. So this is
definitely accustomed to doing kind of out of the box or thinking outside the box.
Yes.
And different. Yeah. So it'll be interesting. That is one that I'd be interested in obtaining.
I think it, and I am almost positive it's a PlayStation exclusive.
Which we still need to get PlayStation
Right.
for the Nathan Drake, which is out.
So let's see here. The other one that sparked my interest was the new Insomniac Spider-Man game, which looked disgusting. The last Insomniac game that I played was Sunset Overdrive, which traverse-wise is exactly like Spider-Man. Like, you go through this entire town and you don't even walk on the sidewalk. You're, grinding on these on the sides of buildings, running along the edges of buildings and signs and things like that.
Now I think of Insomniac in terms of Spyro.
Mm-hmm.
From like PlayStation 1 days.
Right, and I think it's gonna have it's gonna have that cartoonish feeling to it. I think not as far as Spyro, obviously, but I think it's gonna have.
Oh, it looked pretty.
And it looked. I mean, I thought it looked really good. It looks like it's almost done. Like, they had a lot of different battle scenes. Didn't see any gameplay.
Oh, let's talk about the game featuring Norman Reedus.
Oh yeah,
Death Stranding.
Yeah, this is the weirdest name, Death Stranding.
But yeah, so like basically it was just a trailer, like a teaser trailer. The modeling for Norman Reedus was like right on point. I mean, you knew who it was right off the bat.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, it was very bizarre. So it's like this guy waking up on this beach, mostly naked.
Right.
Or totally naked or something.
Cord.
Right, and he sees this baby laying next to him with an umbilical cord, which he picks up and is holding it, and then it's gone, and he's got all these like dusty handprints all over him, and it was very, very bizarre. So I really have no clue what this game is supposed to be about, what kind of game this is. Basically, it was just like a teaser trailer shown, but looks like it could be looks like it could be a neat game. And
It's from Kojima Productions, which is the same company that brought
the same guy.
the same. Yeah, it's the same guy. The same. It's not the same studio. I believe it's a new studio or a rebranded studio. I think they did the
Metal Gear series.
Metal Gear series, yeah. There it is. Yeah, Metal Gear. That's really. I don't know any of those other ones.
Now, I thought he was way younger than that.
But
I thought he was super young. He's 52. He looked like he was a kid when he walked up on stage.
So, everyone was cheering when they saw him walk out on stage. They had him on stage. He said, hey, I'm back. He's, been gone for quite a while. His games are always well thought out. They're always, they always look really good. That's one thing that the Metal Gear Solid series, Metal Gear in general, has always had going for it. It's always the cutting edge graphically. It's, they'll delay a game if it doesn't look right. Like, they're not going to release a game if it's, subpar. So, that's one thing. The storytelling is always, a little convoluted, but it's, it's something that you need to invest in. It's not something like, like the Halo series, while it's got a huge storyline, you could play through the game and be like, oh yeah, it was a good shooter. But this, you kind of have to go through and know the background of the story and very story-driven series. But yeah, it's kind of interesting. Like the trailer, they had like an umbilical cord coming out of the baby. Looked like it went to Norman Reedus.
He had some kind of like scars up and down his stomach.
Right, and then like the baby disappeared, and like his handprints started showing up, and they were filling with like oil-looking stuff, and the end of the actual teaser trailer had something in the sky, and I thought that was going to be the name of the game at first. Had like 5 things in the sky or whatever, and they were spaced directly, in front of him, and they were spaced, perfectly, and then they zipped off into the distance. So, yeah, it also shows he's got some type of like dog tags or something on him or something.
Tags seem to represent equations. Green black holes. I don't know. There's a lot that people have read into this one little trailer.
Right, but yeah, it looks like IGN's got some really good stuff on here, like a collection of what we know and things like that. So definitely head over there. It's it's obviously a long way off. Like, they didn't give us a date or anything like that, so it's a long way off. But one thing we do know, it's probably it's gonna be PlayStation 4. So I don't know. It looks really good. What else? That was really. Days Gone looked really good. That was a zombie survival game that looked pretty good.
A ton of zombies on screen at a time.
Yeah, and they were not the slow zombies. They were the super fast zombies. Resident Evil looked really good. It looks like it was going back to like that horror, not supernatural. Like horror, flick. Jump scare type of thing, less of the action, like over the shoulder action adventure thing. So I'm looking forward to that. Assuming that's multi-platform.
They brought out Crash Bandicoot. They're bringing out some it's like remakes of Crash Bandicoot, and then they showed some of the new Skylanders game that's going to be coming out that involved Crash Bandicoot.
Yeah.
Not too excited about that.
Yeah, the one thing that did catch our eye about the Skylanders, which is probably about all it'll do, is
creating your own
guy. Like, they had them like sketches on paper, and somehow the sketches came alive, which
reminds me a lot of the Crayola. Eli's got that coloring book, the Crayola Magic whatever, and it has that app that it makes it 3D what you've colored. So it could use some similar technology to that.
Right.
Now, granted, that app it doesn't make anything 3D. You have to tell it what coloring book you're in, and then it scans that page.
Right.
So we'll see. I don't know how that's going to work out, but I would imagine it might be some kind of similar, some kind of similar thing. And in that case, will it be packaged instead of with that little portal? some kind of like a little camera, like a PlayStation Eye type camera, or utilize
Oh
something
yeah, they
like
never really
that.
thought about that because well, it's Activision, so the cynic part of me says that they'll have some proprietary device that you have to buy, like the Portal, because then they have to rely on the PlayStation Eye and Kinect, and now that Kinect hasn't been bundled with the Xbox for over a year now, some people don't have it, so you obviously you can't, they'll package in something and sell it for $150. They almost have to. I don't know. I mean, Skyland. You said it spot on when the trailer was going through. Like, oh no, the problem with Skylanders is every release, they put out a new Portal, a new type of character, and some of them are backwards compatible, some of them aren't.
I haven't seen any characters that are backwards compatible.
Oh, really?
Every single time you gotta buy new characters. Whether it's the Swap Force, now you got the characters that
Yeah,
you
that's
can do
true.
the top and you can do the bottom, or now it's the racer guys, and now
Yeah.
now you have the cars with it. It's like now you're spending $70 on your initial starter pack that comes with the 3 guys.
If you find it on sale. I think they're more than that.
Well, I don't know. Plus, then your kid's gonna want to buy more guys. Oh, and then next Christmas, every single Christmas, a new Skylanders comes out, which is more guys coming out.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got this collection then of little Skylanders characters sitting on your shelf that aren't getting played anymore because now they're playing the new Skylanders.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just... Ugh.
And we own 2 of those.
One.
No, we have the
Well, we have Disney version and then one Skylanders, yeah.
So.
Which the Disney, they've announced they're not doing any more of that game. They've come out with 3 installments of that game and they're done.
Thank God. I think it's a waste of money, to be honest with you.
I was excited about the idea of it, but yeah, I agree. It is a money sink.
Yeah. Jumping back to Resident Evil real quick, it's got a release date of January 24th, 2017, so that's
not too far off.
Not too far off.
Just after this Christmas. Which is a weird time, I think, for games to be released.
Right.
After Christmas.
Right. It's going to be out for PlayStation 4, PlayStation VR, which is awesome. That will be a game that needs to fix the point and click thing as well.
Xbox One and PC.
Xbox, I forgot what I was saying. Xbox One and PC.
I
So
can
you're
tell.
definitely going to be getting it for Xbox One, unless we do know how much the PlayStation VR is, which is another $400. So I don't think that's viable.
PlayStation 4 would be viable, and
No,
Santa comes this year.
No, I know PlayStation 4 would be viable, but PlayStation 4 and $400, basically.
Oh yeah, we're not planning on VR.
Planning on VR. I think the better option would be go PC VR. It's more expensive, but I feel like you're going to get a better all-around experience. And I think the one thing that's got me, we can use this to transition into Microsoft. The one thing that Microsoft has going for it is they have basically aligned themselves or partnered themselves with Oculus, which is a third-party developer who has a virtual reality headset out now for the PC. But they have said Oculus will work on. That's who's going to work with the Xbox One. That headset will be Xbox One. The thing that has me leaning more towards that versus the Vive and the PSVR is the fact that if I buy a lot of the first-party titles on Xbox One, if you buy it on Xbox One, you're getting a digital copy. So they've got this whole like buy it once campaign that they're running where you buy it on Xbox One and you get a downloadable copy for your PC. So that's kind of got me wanting to go PC VR. I don't know. As of right now, the specs to build a PC that can run that type of stuff, you're looking at like $800, $900 anyway. Which, by the end of 2017 or mid 2017, you're probably you'll be spending a lot less, for this generation's tech. So Microsoft, they had a whole bunch of stuff that I really didn't care too much about. I hate to say it. Gears of War 4, which there's a group, there's definitely a group of gamers for that series. Looks good. Doesn't appeal to me because I'm terrible at third-person shooters, like really, really bad. Forza Horizon goes to Australia. So you've got, driving through forests and driving on the beaches and things like that. Final Fantasy 15, which we talked about, doesn't look like Final Fantasy.
We saw that in the Sony press conference too.
Yeah, which they showed. I think they showed the same thing. Or
Yeah,
very
that was
similar
kind
thing.
of. Honestly, I had no interest in that.
Battlefield 1 showed up, which takes you back to the old school wars scene with World War II and tanks and stuff like that, which not really a big thing on that. They talked about Tekken 7, not big on that. Scalebound looks terrible. It's so like, I don't know what this game is trying to do. I really don't. They had you fighting this huge monster with a bow and arrow, and your main character has these red Beats headphones that look so out of place. Like at the very beginning of the battle, he puts his headphones on and he's like, "All right, let's play something good." Like it's so cheesy and just like over the top, and I just the demo was really boring. Like the scale of the monster was sweet, but like it just didn't seem very like interact. I don't know. I don't know. Just the main character just is lost on me. Halo Wars 2, they showed a really nice pre-rendered trailer, like they always do. That studio is top notch when it comes to that type of stuff. Again, I'm not an RTS fan, so even though it's set in my favorite universe, I'm not going to play that game. A couple things that sparked my interest. Dead Rising 4, going back to Frank West, that's a win, thank God. The humor's still there for sure. Looks like we're getting some mall action, kind of hailing back to the first Dead Rising. We've got some smartphone interaction there as well, with him playing on Twitter while he's lighting up a Christmas tree of zombies. So it looks pretty sweet. And then Recore was another one that they debuted last E3. Basically, this is a Japanese developed game, kind of like a platformer, kind of like Ratchet and Clank type of thing, where you have these different robot animal friends that all use the same core, and you use it for puzzle solving. Looks like it could be a lot of fun. I'm kind of interested in it. So that kind of sparked my interest. The other thing that they talked about was the new Xboxes. So releasing this holiday will be the Xbox One S. So it's got a slimmer body, 40% less as far as size goes. Which is huge. The other thing that I didn't know this until I kind of researched it a little more, two things. The power brick is going to be internal, so there isn't going to be a power brick.
How are they making it smaller but also including a bigger power brick?
I don't know. So that's got me concerned about heat, for one thing, because the Xbox One power brick is pretty hot, and enclosing it inside of a case, they've got to have some. The whole right side of it is, kind of like the 360 had those porous holes, but it's literally the whole right side of your system is now holy. The other thing that I found interesting is it does not have a Connect port. Yeah, no Connect port. So this kind of is interesting. They did come out and say that they will there will be a dongle, a USB dongle that you can purchase that will be able to connect to the Connect. Probably $40. They didn't give a price, which is kind of sad. But the interesting thing about this is they've included an IR blaster in the system. So now, right now the next update that comes out for the system, you'll be able to use your headset as a microphone, which they've said on numerous occasions that they get better audio input from the headset than they do the new Connect. So you'll be able to say Xbox turn on through your headset, and the IR blaster on the system will shoot out the lasers that will turn your TV on, they'll turn on your surround sound and your cable box and all that stuff. So they
So you still
affected.
get that same connectivity.
You get that exact same connectivity, that same experience without the system. There's no camera, but then again, do you need the camera? I've used the Kinect camera more for streaming.
Well, that's the thing. That I think they're finding that Kinect game sales really, it was a novel idea, which I think is going to be the same way with the VR. It's this exciting new thing that you do for a little bit, and then sales kind of tank. I mean, people use the camera for Skype, but yeah, you got phones now that can do FaceTime. So, I mean,
I think I think the VR will stick around a lot longer. I think that is the next step, just because it's a little bit more immersive. The technology's much better.
yeah, I don't know.
I did feel this. I did feel the same way. If we would have had this conversation last year or 6 months
Like,
ago,
oh, it's the next big thing. It's
I
gonna
would've said
last.
the
The next
exact
big
same
fad.
thing.
It'll last for a little bit and then it'll fade off.
right? I would have said the exact same thing. The only thing that's changed my mind is the podcasts and the people that have the system that play it, that review it, that talk about it on their shows. Like they've brought it in to a whole nother level of me expressing how the difference between Kinect and the fact of the matter may be it may be a PC thing. These systems could launch this and it could be a subpar experience, or it could be too expensive for a console gamer. You got to remember, the reason why you purchase a console is because it's cheaper. It requires no PC, building PC knowledge. You just buy it and it plays the games out of the box. With the VR headset for the PS3 or PS4, you're looking at another console's worth of investment. So buying another one, and then are you gonna get the games that the same type of fidelity? Is it gonna suffer from the same thing that Kinect suffered from, and subpar games, subpar experiences lead to less sales? Then you run into the same thing that happened to this generation's Kinect, where the parent company just doesn't support it anymore. In fact, they're replacing it with their new generation system, which isn't even in the next generation. It's literally like the smaller version of current gen stuff. Anyway, the other thing that it's going to include is a 2 terabyte hard drive, which I later found out to be kind of true. There's going to be 3 different models. There's going to be a 500 gig for $300, a 1 terabyte for $350, and for $400 you can get the 2 terabyte one. So that's the Xbox One S. Comes in a fancy white box. Can stand vertically if you're into that. The other thing that they announced hardware-wise is this Project Scorpio, which is like Xbox 1.5. They haven't given it a full name yet. Essentially, this system has an upgraded graphics card chip set, something or other, that can do VR and 4K. And then the only other thing that they talked about was the release date is not this holiday but the next holiday. So they're giving
Sony will get the leg up on the VR stuff because they're coming out this year.
Right, they're coming out this year with their current system, capable of doing VR, and Microsoft is going to have to backpedal, and so it'll be interesting to see, because the experiences will be two different things. You get with the PlayStation, you get VR now with your current equipment, whereas Microsoft is saying, hey, this Xbox, if you're wanting to do VR, this is the Xbox for you. And I think that's how they need to market it. I don't think they should market it as, hey, this is a new Xbox that plays your games better, because you're still going to get the same games on all the systems. That's one thing that they promised, that there isn't going to be a game that won't play, excluding VR, obviously. If it's VR, you're going to need an Xbox One Scorpio. But if there's a game that's released on one, Xbox One system, then it should be playable on all of them. So you're not going to miss out on those, non-VR experiences. So I think that's how they need to market it. Is if you're not looking to dump $900 into a new PC, or $1,200 into a new PC, here's if it comes in, I if they include the Oculus headset, if it comes in at $550, $600, I think that's a win. That would be the system, the headset, everything you need plus a game to play in VR. I think that's a good price point. So we'll see. Obviously, it's more expensive if you piece it out, but I don't know. So that was Microsoft's press conference. Those are the three that we watched, or that I watched, or that we watched. So all good stuff. Is there anything that you're the best thing that you're looking forward to? Is there any particular game or?
I don't know. Out of all of it, really, I wasn't all that excited. The Detroit thing was probably the coolest, but again, we don't have a PS4 yet.
Mm-hmm.
But everything else was kind of not my cup of tea.
I think that Detroit thing is my game of show. I think the possibilities that are gonna be there with that game.
The graphics looked beautiful.
The interaction with what you could do,
Now it could stand to be a huge disappointment too. I think because it holds such possibility,
right? It
could hold a huge disappointment if it doesn't meet what we hope it will.
I mean, the other thing that it looked at too. I mean, with Heavy Rain, it was very. I mean, you had a few different outcomes, and they were
based on who died and who lived. And
right,
that was
right.
the ending outcome. You could go back and change it.
Right. And you didn't really. There was some interaction, but there really wasn't a lot of choice when it came to the individual case, the storyline at hand. You impacted the story by what you did or did not do. With this game, when they were showing some gameplay, and you were looking at a piece of evidence, and it had 3 or 4 different options: pick it up, take it, don't touch it, investigate it, call for help. That type of as long as those 4 actions result in something different. If I choose option A, I better not be able to interact with option C, B, or D.
Well, I mean, that's like that Life is Strange game. Granted, it was a cheaper game. It was downloadable. You felt like you should be having more impact,
mm-hmm.
but in the end, there were 2 outcomes.
Right. And I think that goes just to show you how long, if you give a company time to develop that story and the game itself, I think, and like you said, it could be a huge disappointment. But I'm hoping, based on the Beyond Two Souls and the experience they got in the information and feedback they got from Heavy Rain, they should be able to
hopefully blow
this one out of the park. If we don't get this game, if it doesn't come out until holiday 2017, I'll be happy. If they're like, hey, we need till this time to make this game fully fleshed out, take all the time you need. So, anyway. Alright, well, that will be episode 194. We should be back next week. If we get the new PC, we'll have video back. If not, we'll be audio only for a little bit, unfortunately. But next episode next Wednesday will be on twitch.tv/BC Podcast. It'll be the 22nd. We'll start at 8 o'clock. I was trying to think here. I want to talk more, since we won't have we won't have much video game coverage to talk about because E3 will be over. We'll talk more about channel specific stuff and what we're going to be switching around here for the Ball and Chain YouTube channel. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the section below. You can watch us on twitch.com/BC Podcast. Our YouTube channel is youtube.com/72DPI online. And yeah, appreciate if you would subscribe or leave a comment. Give us a like. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/BC Podcast. Do all the fun things that tell people we're out here talking about video games and movies and TV shows. Have a great night.
Night.